Courageous conversations don't happen between strangers. Strangers need to move to be friends before they have the comfort to speak to one another in a courageous conversation. The World Cafe is a marvelous process for taking strangers and helping them to become friends very quickly. Imagine yourself inviting a friend out for coffee to talk about something that you wouldn't necessarily talk about in front of others or talk about in a cocktail party, for example. So what we would do is invite in everyone who is attending the CDO Forum in April to engage in an intimate conversation over a cup of coffee in small tables, tables of 4, where you will find a difficult question sitting at the table waiting for you. 4 of you will sit down, you'll see this question, you'll introduce yourselves to one another, and because everyone else in the room is engaged in a courageous conversation about a difficult question, the momentum begins to build, and it builds. And you can hear, all of a sudden, the chatter moves from cocktail conversation to intense and deep and very heartfelt conversation in a World Cafe. After about 15 minutes, I'll raise my hand, and everyone will stand up, move to another table, find a whole new set of friends, get another difficult conversation, sit down, and get right to it. Eventually, these conversations have gone on all around the room, and one conversation seeds the next conversation, seeds the next conversation, and patterns begin to emerge, and ideas start to come out, and people furiously coloring on the tables, coming up with brilliant ideas for one another to seed the next day and a half of the CDO Forum. And that's why we're beginning with a World Cafe for this forum, because it's the beginning of a courageous conversation. It's what we want to model throughout the rest of the forum, because we want those courageous conversations to happen in the hallway, in the elevator, not only in the World Cafe, but throughout that day and a half. So it's a meaningful time for everyone to find the courage within themselves to make a new friend and have a difficult conversation. So I invite you all to the World Cafe at the CDO Forum. We're going to have a great time.
And as a good way to start, why don't we just go around and introduce ourselves? Just take a minute, tell you who you are and where you're from. Michelle.
I'm Michelle Dean. I work at Georgia Power in Diversity Action.
I'm Mark Beyer from H Enterprises.
I'm Maureen Darcy, Georgia Power.
I'm Felito Echevarria. I work for H Enterprises.
And I'm Frank McCloskey. So thank you all for being here. Our topic is, what can a strong pipeline also be? The discussion that we are going to have for the next 12 minutes is, what is the dawn of the post-racial period? So I would ask, let's just talk about that. Why do you feel that's an important topic for us to be speaking to from a corporate business perspective?
I think post-racial periods are going to vary as far as location. I think there are certain areas of the world that are further down that continuum.
I think in this economic time especially, a strong pipeline creates efficiencies. And right now companies are looking for any way they can to make money, whether it be the suppliers that you're getting your product from to your end users, that the pipeline has to be strong to create revenue.
So are we saying that just because we have obvious racial or ethnic visibility that is post-racial? We don't have issues around race anymore, because if we had issues around race, he would not be president. How do you respond to that?
I think it is, it's a temporary moment. I think it's a snapshot of time in which you can look at it and say, okay, well, it's possible that you had a bunch of ands.
Perhaps recruiting external middle management from other companies if needed. Also a means to provide community involvement.
Think of a pipeline in terms of leadership and where it all begins in terms of developing your future leaders for future positions. And
The more diversity you have, the more values you're going to have, different points of views.
What about your business, the operational piece? I mean,
It should be what holds everything together.
to me, when we talk about how you're going to use the people to drive your business success, that's coming out of the operational part of the business. And so, Michelle, is there enough folks in the pipeline? Because I keep hearing there's something to do with this worker shortage. I mean, is that a myth?
I don't think it's a myth.
So when there are cracks,
Making sure that your work environment is one in which you can keep the talent that you have and then also get more.
First of all, it doesn't really matter who's asking the question. It's more of who's going to answer it. Where you're from. I'm from Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico it's just a mixture of all different cultures. A lot of basic African.
You're losing pipeline, so that's the cracks in the pipeline or your whole organization. All right, so the pipeline is what? African Americans, Hispanic, Latinos.
White men, white women,
Everything.
every type of employee you can have.
Who's not in the pipeline?
Whoever's not breathing.
Well, so as a white male, am I hearing that the post-racial means that there's going to be less of me, less of the pie for me, and more for you all around the table? Is that post-racial?
I would say that that's where the opportunities are, though. I mean, I think every company has to look and see who is in their pipeline.
How do you get in that pipeline? What's going to be required for someone to be in that pipeline? What's needed?
A good resume and biography.
Productivity, leadership.
Yeah, skills, behaviors,
Past performance.
Flexibility, what else?
and something that speaks to, for us as a company, we always had the luxury of pretty much throwing open the door and saying we need people, and they're just being seas of people.
Yeah.
And so now, now it's not about just hiring for the current role. I'm not just hiring an entry-level engineer to be an engineer. I'm hiring an entry-level engineer with potential and leadership skills. That's what I was about to say, Frank. I wouldn't want a colorblind society. I think for me, it's more about valuing all of the differences that someone brings. So, not me just saying, you're a person, you're exactly like me, but instead saying, I value that we're different and you have a great perspective that is different than mine.
But why is a strong pipeline? I'm still not, y'all haven't convinced me that this is really important, that having a strong pipeline is valuable to have. So why strong? Why strong pipeline?
racial.
Just we're going to have a time where that word is just going to have to be redefined.
Effectively, but also the leaders of the organization that are giving the directives on how to hire, what to look for. Need to push that through the organization downward.
Let me just interrupt. We have 30 seconds, so we have 30 seconds to go around. Anything that you have not said you want to say, and you got 10 seconds each. And I really hate to close this conversation down, but we have 10 seconds each. That means we're going 40 seconds, but we've got 10 seconds each. Anything you want to say that you haven't said?
No, basically it's that. I think about a strong pipeline, and I think about a strong organization with diverse employees who want to make sure that the company is productive.
Long-term business success, reiterated.
I would say you value the differences that people bring and learn to understand and get to know them.
And I'm on the side that there will never be post-racial, that the issues of racism are so embedded, so scripted, at least for the next million years around difference of skin color. We'll always be struggling with this. Thank you all very much. Let's go ahead and move to the next table.
Thank you.
Thank you.